Good day, everyone. For this session, we are going to discuss about conducting the IT-based audit. I'm pretty sure that for those who reached this level, they already have or you already have respective discussions about auditing, most especially with the financial statements audit. So in this aspect also, we are going to deal with or have IT audit, but now it will be focused more on the IT perspective or information technology perspective. So I'm going to present like a very summarized version of this particular topic. So hopefully you are with me. Anyhow, the respective discussions can also be found in other respective courses like auditing subjects to be more specific. In dealing with audit, we have actually our auditing standards to be guided from. In US, most especially from United States of America, they have their SASS, so Statements of Auditing Standards, in which all companies will have to follow, in which auditing of these companies will be applicable. So this is from the AICPA, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, as said in Chapter 2, that this is like the largest umbrella organization of CPAs in the entire world. Then also, most especially we are talking about IT-based audit, will also be guided by the ISACA. So the Information Systems Audit and Control Association Standards, Guidelines, and Procedures or SGP. Also, the AICPA have their SSAE for standards for attestation engagements, in which these engagements will involve making reports, written reports to be more specific, that is geared towards the improvement of the quality of information therein, and the primary responsibility of the subject matter, especially, for example, the financial statements for a financial statements audit, will be for the management. Here, this is about IT auditing. So the IT processes, resources, these are primary responsibilities of the client or the management. Okay. Then you also have the IFAC standards. IFAC stands for International Federation of Accountants, in which they issue the international auditing standards or standards on auditing, which are the ISAs. And then the ISACA also have their COBIT, so Control of Business Information Technology. This has been discussed in Chapter 3 about information technology risks and controls. Okay, so just like for a financial statements audit, we have the so-called life cycle. In this life cycle, we begin and end and begin with another one. So that is what is good thing about a cycle. Hence, it resembles a circle. So it begins with planning. We begin with planning. We are going to think about what we should be doing by looking into an end in mind. So what do we want to do? We have to provide an opinion. So we have to make sure that our necessary courses of actions will be going there or will be into that area. So that's planning. Next is risk assessment. In doing audits, we are going to assess the risks there are on certain accounts and the businesses. So we have to know as to whether which areas there are that are riskier compared with the others. And that's why we are going to perform more procedures as there are more risks and lesser procedures as there are lesser risks. Also, there are certain accounts that are more susceptible, for example, to fraud. That's why we have to test them more. And then there are also accounts that will be changing volatile in manner. So that's why we are going to also audit and perform more procedures. So it depends upon the account and also the timing. So for accounts in which there are lesser changes, normally we can prepare and perform the procedures close to the reporting date or the balance sheet date. However, for the accounts wherein they are going to have really abrupt or sudden changes and more changes, volatilities, fluctuations in the accounts, And that's why we are going to perform as closer, much closer to the balance sheet date. But then for lesser changes, so like just close, or perhaps for real life situation, it would be like even far from the balance sheet date. Okay, so prepare audit program. This would be the sets of the objectives and the procedures that we are going to do in the audit. Then, in as much as we have the objectives, our evidences to be gathered should be aligned with those objectives. So objectives, the procedures, and the evidences gathered in order for us to be able to form the necessary conclusion. And we deliver the audit opinion, which is normally into like two types under the revised auditing standards. So we have the unmodified opinion and the modified opinion. When we modify our opinion, we have three things. So it's either we are going to have adverse opinion. So really it's ineffective and inefficient in terms of the operations of the companies with respect to IT. Or we can also have like disclaimer of opinion, meaning no opinion at all. And we can also have like the except for opinion. So all are fair with the exception. So you call that qualified opinion. So overall, those are the four types of opinions and follow up. So it does not end there. Like after giving of opinion, giving or furnishing of the reports, that's it. No, we have to do the follow up because there are certain things uncovered in the audit that we have to communicate with the management, especially with those exceptional items or control deficiencies rather. So these items really are something that will play important role in terms of the IT audit processes. However, sometimes they will not be communicated to the management, most especially if the audit was done. Supposedly for recurring audits or audits that are going to repeat for certain periods of time, for example, for financial statements audit, we have like 5 years to do the rotation. So another auditing company or firm will have to perform the audits next. So in this case, while the audits are recurring, we have to make sure that any control deficiencies have been communicated to the proper management or authorities. Again, the management, the primarily responsible party. Otherwise, the audit would be useless. Although we are not like required, for example, for a financial statements audit to do that, but then for operational audits and IT audits, it is really something of value so that our respective also clients will be able to improve their operations in the process. Okay, after that, we have planning. So in planning, we said we are going to do the making or crafting of our objectives. So what is the audit all about? The scope, especially like how far shall we go, and the controls that we are talking about, the specific items to be able to minimize the cases of fraud and so and the four objectives under the COSO framework. So remember, the controls are there. Internal controls refer to sets of procedures, processes, programs, steps, in order to ensure that the four objectives will be met. First, fairness or reliability of financial reporting. Second, effectiveness and efficiency of operations. Third, compliance with applicable laws and regulations. And number four, safeguarding of assets. Then materiality. So in materiality, there are certain items that the inclusion or omission of one or them will affect wise decision making of certain users of financial statements. And what is material on one occasion will be different with the other or another occasion, or what is material in one case would be different in another case, and so on. And then we also have to take note that materiality is a combination of quantitative and qualitative factors, objective and subjective factors. Outsourcing, there are some situations wherein certain services of experts or specialists will have to be there or will be gathered. For example, gemologists, so experts about gems, jewelries, and so on. We as auditors or accountants in the business field do not have the necessary expertise about evaluation of the fair values authenticity of gems. So we have to ask help, of course, with fees from the experts. Then we also gain an understanding of the client and client's industry or business risks. Again, there are some industries like the mining industries, which are more susceptible to business risks, the failure to achieve their objectives and goals as a business, compared with, let's say, retail industries or educational institutions. Next, risk assessment. As said, in a risk-based audit approach, there are some companies wherein or accounts wherein we have to perform more procedures because they are riskier than the others. We have to think what can go wrong. So we are now going to be skeptic. Professional skepticism is applied, which means it is an attitude that we assume that management is dishonest nor has an unquestioned or unquestionable honesty because there is no such thing as a perfect organization. Then, as said, high-risk areas require more audit effort and more material items there are, the more that we perform also audit. Then audit program, this includes scope. So again, our limitations in the audit, then the objectives, the procedures, and then the administrative details, most especially about our clients, then about the planning and reporting also on our end as auditors. Although there are some generic audit programs wherein they're already laid down, most especially from the standards. They're generic because they're already applicable, if not to all, but to the majority. Then they are edited depending on the client and the client's technology. So they can be customized. In gathering evidence, remember in documentation in chapter 3, we can have like 3 ways. Remember, we can perform such gathering of evidence through narratives, through flowcharts, or another thing would be questionnaires. So by questionnaires, we can gather information. But then there can be more. So we can have observations. For example, there is an inventory count. So we can observe like how they are doing such count. And then documentary evidence. So we can look into the forms or the source documents, for example, just to be able to gather evidences and to be able to corroborate that with the assertions. So existence or occurrence, completeness, valuation and allocation, presentation and disclosure, and rights and obligations. Then I've mentioned flowcharts, narratives, written policies can also be examined. Most especially, they are going to deal with the procedures and the CATs, so the computer assisted audit techniques that we have discussed in the previous chapter, like test deck, like parallel simulation, integrated test facility, and much more. Sampling is really done, especially with items in which we cannot examine 100%. So we can just get a sample, but we have to be careful because there will be sampling risks in which these are the risks attributed to sampling that the conclusion or opinion that we will be able to gather out of evaluating the samples will not be the representatives and will not actually tell really the actual situation of the population. Anyway, so we can do attribute sampling for IT auditors in which we are going to have the characteristics or the qualitative factors or items of the IT or information technology that will be audited. So the opposite of this one is variable sampling, in which we are going to look into the financial or quantitative items. Then forming conclusions will involve the reportable conditions in which these items will be material and of high significance to the organization and to us as auditors to be communicated to the client, most especially again with the so-called control deficiencies and the exceptions. Then audit opinion per guidelines for the 70. So this should include Well, we have the format or template in real life, so we can just edit that, but these are like the commonalities. So name of organization being audited, the title of the report. So is this like the audit for internal control over financial reporting? The signature of the partner, normally not the auditor, so the partner who has the licenses and the accreditations, and then the date of the issuance of the report. So normally that is after the field work, after we have done the audit procedures. Then statement of audit objectives and whether these were met. So what were our goals in the audit, and then did we actually achieve them? Scope and limitations of the audit, and then intended audience. So to whom? So are we addressing this to the public or to the shareholders of the corporation or what? Then audit opinion as continued. These are the standards used to perform the audit also as actually said. So are we using, for example, the COBIT, Controlled Business Information Technology, and the ISACA standards? Detailed explanation of findings. What did we get from the audit? Conclusion, including reservations or qualifications. So just like with the qualified opinion. Then are there any suggestions for corrective actions or improvement on the part of the client's IT operations? And if there are significant subsequent events, so remember under IAS 10 events after reporting period that there are events that would affect materially and they are indicative of conditions that already existed on reporting date. So they might have certain adjustments on the financial statements. So they might be involved there. Or there might be some adjustments to be incorporated on the financial statements. But for the non-adjusting events, if they're significant, they are just disclosed in the notes to financial statements. Refer to IAS 10 for that. All right, so that is part one of our discussions about conducting an IT-based audit. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless us all.